Hi everyone, a very good evening to all of you. I, along with my colleague Shreya, we are back with another interesting episode from our GTM series. And today we have a special guest who will impart his knowledge and experience on digital pre-sales automation, how interactive video demos drive productivity while improving the customer experience. And I have Garen Hess, who is the CEO of Consensus, an organization that accelerates B2B sales by delivering a personalized product demonstration. Be curious, you can ask questions anytime during the session. Garen will cater to most of them after his presentation. Also, please do not forget to leave your feedback to help me improve my future webinars. Good morning, Garen. Welcome to NASSCOM Product Connect webinar series on GTM. Thank you so much for coming here, and I'm really looking forward to this awesome episode. Over to you, Garen.
Thank you, Ankita. It's a real pleasure to be part of the conference and series that you have going on. I really appreciate the opportunity, and good afternoon and evening to everybody. I think we're on opposite ends of the world right now, but it's my pleasure to be here with you, and look forward to sharing my experiences with digital pre-sales automation. So as Ankita mentioned, if you have questions, just put them in the Q&A area, and at the end of the session, I'll take a look at those. So feel free to put those in at any time. So they asked me to leave this slide up for just a moment or two. And I just want to start with what you're going to learn today. Today, we're going to learn how to double sales engineering productivity while simultaneously shortening the sales cycle and improving close rates. I know that sounds like a grandiose promise, but the reality is some of our customers experience this very thing, and many of our customers experience varying results that from anywhere from 30% to 100% improvement on sales engineering productivity. But I'm going to share one example today of a company that doubled their sales engineering productivity with their existing headcount, and also how some of our customers have shortened their sales cycle by using demo automation as well. So I want to start with a question. And this question is, what do buyers say is the most valuable content from a vendor? The answer to this is coming from some Gartner research. And here's the reference to that research in case you want to look it up on Gartner.com. It's called Content That Builds Trust and Delivers Value. So the answer is that what they value most is our demonstrations. So you can see, and this is a response from 506 different buyers or organizations. And the number one piece of content that buyers want from vendors are demonstrations, followed closely by case studies and value assessment tools, such as ROI calculations and things like that. So one of the big challenges is that people want demonstrations, and they want them early, and they want them frequently throughout the process. And today we're going to learn about how to categorize your demonstrations into different categories to help you understand better which ones might be good to automate and which ones you should never automate. So one of the big challenges is customers want a demo right away, but the response time for delivering a demo, it can be quite lengthy. So this is a survey that we did earlier this year. You can find on our website at goconsensus.com this report if you want to download it, called the Sales Engineer Compensation and Workload. So I'm in the workload section of the report. But we asked several hundred sales engineers and pre-sales professionals to indicate how long it took in their business to deliver a demo after the prospect asked for a demo. So the customer wants a demo. It's the number one thing they want, but on average, or rather the median, so 50% or more of the industry said that prospects must wait at least 1 week. So, and 20% say that their prospects are waiting at least 2 weeks for a demo. So this is not a good customer experience, and it creates some challenges where the sales teams are frustrated with the sales engineering teams, and the customers are frustrated because they're not getting. And one of the challenges is if you don't demo for them when the customer wants it, they may go look at a competitor. So one of the goals is to help your organization demo more quickly. Another big challenge is qualification. So sales engineers routinely talk about how they demo for unqualified prospects. So we ask this question: what percentage of your demos are underqualified or unqualified? And you can see that as some mention that even 50% or 60% of their demos are unqualified. More than half of the participants reported that at least 30% of their demos are unqualified. So imagine if you could be able to qualify demos more effectively and also recover 30% of your time as a sales engineer or across your entire sales engineering organization. And that's really what the goal with automation is to help free up time for your sales engineers to do what they're uniquely qualified to do, which is not repetitive early stage demos, but rather strategic conversations and consulting and highly technical demos. So the goal with demo automation is not to replace sales engineers, but to help free up their time and also to make the conversations they do have more meaningful for both the prospects and for the sales engineers. So one of the challenges is that sales engineers are pulled in lots of different directions. This is just a list that we put together of many of the different things that sales engineers are asked to do. And it's a rather complex and overwhelming job sometimes because they're asked to do more than they really have time to do. But if we were to ask the question, what is the best use of a sales engineer's time? Well, you might have your own answers to this, but you might argue that the best use is highly technical demos, consulting calls, proof of concepts, discovery, planning and architecting, maybe improving product knowledge. All these other things are very important, but look at how many repetitive types of demos that they might be doing. And right here, you can see I have the word qualifying demos, micro demos, FAQ, and closing demos. That's because we have characterized and identified different types of demos that sales engineers do. A lot of times people think of the demo as the demo, and they don't really think too clearly about how exactly we're going to classify those demos. And without classifying them, it's hard to identify which ones you should potentially automate or even delegate to the sales team. So what I want to do is talk briefly about the 6 demo types and how they relate to the buying process and what's involved in each type of demo. So when in sales engineering, we often say, when we refer to a demo, we are thinking about the deep dive technical demo that everybody is, the sales engineers are uniquely qualified to do, which is what we call, here we call the pre-sales or technical demo. So I think there's a lot more to this because sales engineers, as we started researching and surveying sales engineers, we realized that there were many different types of demos they get pulled into. And the problem is that a lot of times, even let's just set aside demo automation for the moment, and let's just imagine that all of these are live demos, which they usually are. The problem is that if a salesperson asks a sales engineer at the very top of the buying process to come in and do a demo, many times the sales engineer is not really thinking about what type of demo do they really need right now. They're just asking for a standard demo. Maybe they even say, we want a 15-minute demo or a 20-minute demo or a half an hour or maybe an hour, but it's not a custom demo where you know a lot about them. You might do a little bit of discovery, but you're often delivering the wrong type of demo for the stage. So we might deliver a, a, a deeper demo down in this area, but up here in the buying process, which is too much for them at that time. So to really understand what kinds of demos we can automate and which ones we should not automate, we need to understand what the buyers actually need at these different phases of the buying process. And this is one thing I would encourage you to do, which is to really think and put yourself in what we call a buyer enablement mindset. So what we think of as buyer enablement is when you understand what the buyer needs better than what the buyer understands. So if you think about it, how many times has the buyer purchased your product? No, probably never. Unless they're buying an add-on or something, but they've probably never bought your product. How many times have you been involved in a purchase of your own product as a sales engineer or as a salesperson? Well, probably dozens, if not hundreds of times, because you've helped people buy your product. So who knows more about the buying process than the buyer? You do. As a salesperson or as a sales engineer, you've been through it more often. And so the buyer enablement mindset is this idea that you're thinking about what the buyer needs at different stages, and not only the buyer, but the different stakeholders in the buying group. So we're going to come back to that. So let's just talk briefly about the buying process. So there are many different ways to look at the buying process. This is a very simple way, but it's good for thinking about what they need over here in the buying, in the demo, type of demo that they are looking for. So at the beginning of the buying process, it's all about change and discontent. They're looking for an opportunity or they're trying to solve a problem. Then they get into research about how can we do that. And then they're comparing different options. And then they make a commitment, but they're afraid to, or they think they're ready to make a commitment, but they're afraid to make the commitment. And then finally they make the commitment and then finally make the purchase. There are, of course, there are buying processes after this, which is for the renewal if you're on a recurring revenue business. But this just goes through the initial purchase. So if we look at the different types of demos as they relate to the buying process, at this stage of change and discontent, where they're just looking for an opportunity to make an improvement of some kind, then what we recommend is what we call the vision demo. And the vision demo, we first got this term from Peter Cohen. If any of you know Peter Cohen, he's a sales engineering expert and consultant that wrote a book called Great Demo. So he uses the word vision demo. And the vision demo is really about helping the customer or the prospect see the problem, the solution, and the benefit. So you're really helping them catch a vision of how their life is going to be different when they implement your solution. How's it going to be better, or what problem will be eliminated? And the thing is that the mistake that a lot of sales teams make at this stage is they just put in the problem, solution, benefit, and they forget that the customer still wants to see the product. So they either make one of two mistakes. They either don't show the product at all, or they show too much of the product. So the vision demo is really about just showing a light amount of product. It could just be some screenshots. It doesn't even need to be the actual product per se. So when you automate a demo, and I will show you what an automated demo looks like a little bit later, but when you automate and make an interactive video demo at this stage, it's often built by marketing or by a marketing-oriented sales engineer who can adequately talk to the problem, solution, and benefit. So this is a great stage to automate and delegate. Now, once they've caught the vision and they're doing more research, they want even more information about how you actually are going to deliver on the vision. but they're still not ready to dive in a deep way because they're just pulling together their short list. They're actually trying to disqualify you. You're trying to qualify them, and they're trying to disqualify you. One of the things that will disqualify you is if they want a demo and they keep refusing to give it to them. So many organizations will refuse to give them a demo until later because they don't want to overwhelm them, or they just think their UI looks ugly or whatever it might be. But the reality is, if you don't give them the demo early, they're going to go find some competition that will give them a demo. So what we recommend is, again, they're giving them the right kind of demo. In this stage, we call it the micro demo, which is really more product oriented, but it's still short. Now, these amounts right here, 5 to 7 minutes, are really about the automated demo. If you're doing these live, they're going to be longer. A vision demo might be 10 or 15 minutes. Same thing for the micro demo, but they are different types of demos. Vision's about problem, solution, benefit. Micro demo's about the product. Then in the comparison stage, they really want to see how you compare to other potential competitors or solutions. And they're still not ready for a custom demo. So these are all generic demos, but and you might change them up a little bit. You're going to personalize them to some extent, but you're not giving the full deep dive technical demo you do later. At this stage, we're in what we call the qualifying or the standard demo, is what is often called at this stage. And in this one, you're still going deeper on product, but it's still generic, and it's built by sales engineers, and it's good for automation. Generally not something you can delegate to sales team. These two up here, you could actually set up in a way to delegate to the sales team. The only way you could delegate the qualifying or the standard demo is to set up a video demo that the sales team can send out. Then finally, when they get down to the actual decision to make a commitment, they're in this fear stage. And the fear stage is, I want to make this commitment, but if I do, what if they can't really deliver? And I have very specific needs, and my needs are complex. And so at this stage, this is where sales engineers are uniquely qualified. They go in and through some of this process, they've learned a lot about the customer, and they're delivering on how they can actually solve the problem. And this helps the buyer overcome their fear of making the purchase, because you're essentially demonstrating that you can solve their problem. So this is not a stage that you can automate effectively. So if you are doing a high volume sales process where you have high volume and many deals with a smaller deal size, well, you're probably just going to skip this stage altogether and try to automate the entire process or semi-automate it. So the last two types of demos that we talk about are the closing demos and the FAQ demos. These are very similar types. The FAQ demo is really just video demos that are recorded that are a recording of questions that you always get as a sales engineer. So this can happen anytime throughout. They might ask the salesperson, "Hey, I saw this little screenshot on this vision demo. Do you have any more information about this particular feature?" Or, "I have a specific question. Can you handle SSO, and is it support SAML 2.0 or whatever the specific question is?" And you might have a library of just FAQ video demos that the salespeople can just send out in responses to FAQs. Same thing for closing demos, but these are essentially FAQs that you get near the end when they're just making final commitments. In our business, the closing demos are often things like, do you have an integration with Salesforce CRM or Sugar CRM? Or do you have a way to handle GDPR inside in the European data protection requirements and things like that? So these are great to automate because they can help accelerate things as well. So one of the big goals here is to, again, free up time for sales engineers to have more time to spend doing what they do best: live technical demos, proof of concepts, solution consulting, and to provide sales with the tools to deliver what the client needs when they need it, not have to wait all that time, and to deliver more qualified buyers to pre-sales. So you can imagine that if somebody watches one or more of these earlier stage demos as a video demo, they're going to be more qualified when they start engaging with the pre-sales person. So where do you use these, and how does this fit into sort of a typical buying motion or sales process? So if we take the large stage parts of the buying process and put them on this horizontal, need, learn, and buy, well, it might look something like this. So you get this marketing qualified lead, and as part of this process, they engage with a vision demo. Now, this could be because they go on your website and watch a vision demo, or it could be because somebody sends them a vision demo as outreach. They become a marketing qualified lead in one way or another. They get the vision demo. The BDR calls them up and says, hey, I noticed you watched this, and I'm wondering if you want to set an appointment to talk to sales. Well, they say, sure. The sales appointment maybe is a week from now. Well, what are you doing in that gap, right? What are you doing in the gap between the sales appointment, or the time the BDR or SDR sets the appointment, and the time the appointment happens? This is what we call selling in the gaps, right? There always a space and time between the appointments that you have with your prospects, and interactive video demos can be really effective at helping keep them engaged when you're not talking to them directly. So a micro demo is a great demo to send there. And what you do is you ask them to watch it before the sales appointment, and you ask them to share it. What's interesting about this is if they will watch it before the first sales appointment, they're 34% more likely to become a qualified opportunity. So this is an important thing if you're trying to create more qualified leads into your sales funnel. The other thing is that if they watch it and share it with at least one other person, then they're 81% more likely. So I'll talk about the sharing in just a minute, but when people engage with the video demos, they can share it with other colleagues or other stakeholders, and you drive that sale more effectively early on. So multiple things are happening at the same time. Again, we are making the pre-sales team more efficient, we're improving the customer experience, and we're accelerating the buying process. So one of the concepts I wanted to share is what we call the demo qualified lead. So many of you are probably familiar with things like the marketing qualified lead, the MQL, the SQL, which is called the sales qualified lead, the qualified opportunity. There are many different designations for different qualifications for the leads. What doesn't exist in the industry right now, and we're trying to change that, is to add what we call the demo qualified lead, meaning where is the gate, what is the qualification for sales engineers to get involved? And that's one of the reasons that sales engineers have so many unqualified demos, because the industry has not recognized that there needs to be a demo qualified lead stage, which is what is going to qualify them. And what a lot of our customers are doing is they're using demo automation as a qualifying gate. So if a prospect won't watch a short interactive video demo, how serious are they, right? So that's one of the questions to ask yourself. Now I want to share one case study from a division inside SAP called SAP Concur. And as you can see from this screenshot from this case study, that they were able to double their pre-sales demo capacity, and they also increased digital engagement by over 300%. So what we're going to do now is listen to Brian Oling. He's a Senior Director of Digital Transformation at SAP and manages digital transformation for pre-sales and salespeople inside this division. Give me 1 second to move over to the video here, and we'll watch that. So I want you to hear how he talks about it. And Kita, if for some reason you can't hear this, let me know. I'll get this playing now.
Sure.
in an enterprise deal, I have 30 contacts in one opportunity I have to go communicate.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
And in an SMB, I have 30 contacts at 30 different accounts.
Yeah.
I still have 30 people I have to engage.
Yep.
I want my 30 people in my one, if I'm enterprise, to go watch this so that when we show up, I'm not educating them. We're immediately driving into objection handling or how-tos. And so we tell our SCs, like, you need to be pushing this out there so you're not repetitive. And if you're not repetitive, you're out on the hard, complex, crazy deals where we need you to be. We can deliver roughly about 28,000 demos in a year with our pre-sales capacity. And when you take digital and add that to it, we'll extend that by 100%. So the digital demo capacity that we can reach in terms of our market, which is highly competitive, is now another 100% greater because of what we're doing in these 4 phases.
You know, we don't replace those live interactions. Right. What we're trying to do is empower you to focus on strategic consulting as opposed to robotic repetition. And so we really think of SEs as they're kind of the special forces. You know, they tend to be the more expensive, the more highly trained. They're really the special sauce and they're the high value resources. And so we want to free them up to do what they really do best as opposed to the grunt work, you know.
Like in a classroom, especially now, the learner is looking at the information ahead of class. And when they come into class, it's facilitating.
They're resolving concerns. They're
applying it versus learning it. And so flip the demo versus flip the classroom. One of my favorite stories, one of our very senior sales reps said, Brian, I'm not using video. Hell is going to have to freeze over before I start using the solution. But I'll tell you that hell has frozen over because last year she reached out and said, all right, I get it. Everybody around me is using this and I'm seeing it accelerate their deals. It helps out with conversions. It drives deeper engagement in that funnel. It actually delivers on those promises. And so I want you to train me so I can use this. And she started using it. So I'm happy to announce hell has frozen over with senior sales reps.
So let me just get back to my presentation here. So I wanted to share the specifics of their rollout in this SAP Concur. And I think one of the things that was important that came out of that conversation is just this flip the demo is what he said, which I really like that concept because I don't know if in your part of the world, if you use that phrase flip the classroom, but in the United States, it's a common phrase for the way that education is changing. Instead of learning everything at the classroom, you do a lot of learning at home. And then when you go to the classroom, you talk to the teacher and ask questions and do activities. And it creates a more engaging experience in the classroom. And what he's saying there is that this is how interactive demo automation can help change the experience with sales engineers and sales, is that they can watch on their own and then come to those conversations with deeper questions, right? So the stats that they experienced were, you saw this one in the video, 28,000 demos before and after they're able to double their pre-sales capacity with the same headcount. What was also interesting is they were using some other video tools for different, just trying to use video, and they saw that they were getting 25% engagement rate compared to less than 10% with the previous platform, and their average engagement on their intelligent or their interactive video demos was 9 minutes, which was really strong engagement. And then this one, which is what I want to talk about now, is the stakeholder discovery rate. So if you think about, as you are enabling your buyer, you're often working with a champion, and that initial champion ends up talking to other stakeholders, right? So if this is the seller and here's the buyer, and that buyer then engages other stakeholders, we call this the buying group. And this champion has to go sell to all the other buyers in the buying group. And what's funny is we think we're doing the selling, but who's really doing the selling? The buyer. The champion ends up having to go do all the selling to all these other stakeholders. So one of the questions is, how do you equip that champion to do that more effectively, right? And one of the ways to do that effectively is to equip them with interactive video demos that they can share with those other stakeholders. And what the automated demo does is automatically personalizes to each stakeholder, so it engages them in their unique interests. So one bit of research that I find interesting is that out of all the time that a buying group spends in buying activities on a, let's say they're making a purchase of a certain platform or something, they only spend 17% of their time meeting with potential suppliers. That's not even 1/5 of the time that they spend. And if they're spending time evaluating 2 or 3 different vendors, they might only spend 5 or 6% of their time with you. So the question is, what can you do to engage them outside of this time you're with them, right? It's going back to that selling in the gaps concept. There's all this time that they spend with other stakeholders. So again, the goal with intelligent demo automation and digital pre-sales is to provide a library of reusable video demos that the sales rep can then send to the initial prospect, and that prospect then shares it with the other stakeholders. The problem is most buyers don't know how to engage these stakeholders effectively. And so that's why giving them this demo that they can share, it automatically personalizes and gathers video clips and documents to their unique interests for them, and it helps enable that champion to be successful, because that champion is really excited to go share with their colleagues, but they're not a trained salesperson, right? So how are you going to help them be effective at that? And that's what one thing that demo automation is really good at. So what we've talked about a lot of the benefits and the ways it can help improve pre-sales productivity. It also helps shorten the sales cycle, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as you engage those stakeholders sooner. But how does this actually work? So basically, the account, once you have a library of video demos, so the video demos are built by sales engineers, and then the salespeople or account executives here, they create what's called a demo board link. This is a custom link, and then they send it in an email. The prospect receives that email and clicks on their name to enter the demo, and then they answer a series of questions about what's very important, somewhat important, and not important to them. And the consensus platform pulls together different video clips and documents to create a custom experience for that particular prospect. And when that prospect engages with the demo, the account executive gets a notification, so they know that they engaged, how they answered the questions, and they can follow up or use that information to more effectively engage with them in the next conversation. Then the prospect actually has the opportunity to share it with other people in the buying group, and it creates what we call this viral sharing, what we call the influencer flywheel. I'm sorry, some of the text got pushed up here, but we call this the influencer flywheel because every buyer, every person in the buying group, stakeholder, can share it with others, and it can just continue, and they keep sharing and sharing with other people, and you discover and engage the different stakeholders in the buying group faster. It's one of the reasons that you can accelerate the purchase. So one of the main benefits is being able to shorten the sales cycle. And you're not only increasing productivity, but you're shortening the sales cycle. Why does that happen? Well, it's because as the viewers are sharing it with other prospects and you're discovering those stakeholders, you get them in earlier, and you're also educating them faster. Instead of having to wait for a week for a demo, they get that demo right away. And then they might even want the next stage demo. And by the time you have the conversation, they're already farther along than they were. And there are many other ways to shorten the sales cycle, but this is just one of the results from one of our customers. And I know I'm showing some results from some large customers. We have equally interesting results from many mid-market companies as well, for example. But at ADP, they were able to, in the first 6 months, improve their close rate by 27%. And surprisingly, their sales cycle was shortened 68%, which is really quite significant. Most of our customers see maybe a 30 to 50% reduction of their sales cycle. So this was really a great outcome. Now I wanted to show you live how these demos work. So I'm just going to jump over to an example. And the example I'm going to show you, I'll just zoom in here a little bit. The example I'm going to show you is just a sample to show how the mechanics of an interactive video demo works. So there's no content in here that really is helpful. It's just how does this actually work? When you send an interactive video demo to a prospect, how does it function? Well, what happens is first you're going to ask a question. This question could be what role describes you best. It could be what industry are you in? How big is your company? Something that's going to ask them and route them to a demo that's more tailored to their unique interest. And we recommend what role. So let's say that I choose role number 1. And an example could be executive management, but it could be anything that you want to put here. But I'll choose role number 1. Well, it automatically routes to a demo that pulls up a video for that role. And I'll show you how this works in a more concrete example in a minute, but I just want to show you the functionality. Now notice the basic demo player has your branding, has your logo, it has some custom call to action buttons. It lists the people who are invited into the demo. And this is just a sample, so it's not showing real people. But and then it also shows this button, this call to action to invite others. So at any time during the demo, they can actually invite other people to join. Now, once they get to the end of this intro video, it really shouldn't be more than 30 to 60 seconds. Then they're asked to rate the different features or benefits, however you want, the different topics here, whether they are, let's say, somewhat important, very important, or not important. Then they click continue, and you can see what happens is it pulls together video clips and documents down here related to what they asked for. So it's personalizing to their unique interests. So it creates a video demo that is tailored to what they want specifically. So notice that it starts with feature 2. Why is that? Well, it's because they mark that as very important. So we're going to start with the things that are very important to them. Now, the other thing is we're not just going to, if it's very important to them, we're going to actually spend more time in it. So you can see it pulled in the long version of this demo, this feature. So as they get down to the end of feature 2, which was the thing that they were most interested in, and they go to the thing that was somewhat important, you can see that it pulled in a short version. So you're not only automatically tailoring the sequence, but also the length of the demo to their unique interests. Because if they're only somewhat interested in it, you don't want to spend as much time as if they're very interested in it, right? So if it's very important or somewhat important to them. So that's the basics of how these interactive video demos work. I want to briefly show you just how they're built. So we'll go into one of our own demos. Let's see. Just pull up an example here. And in this particular demo, you can see that you're building it just through this basic wizard, and you have to pull in videos, intro videos, and then down in the feature area, long and short videos of each feature. You don't have to have both, but if you want to have that feature of really good personalization, you need both. And any documents that relate to it. Now, how do you create the actual videos? Well, inside of the demo management area, there's a screen recorder that you can just click and start recording, and there's an editor and so on. So everybody who has a license to build demos can just quickly record whatever's on their screen. So it could be your software, it could be part of a PowerPoint deck or whatever it might be. But basically, this is put together, once you have the screen recordings and the documents that you need, you can really put these interactive video demos together in just 10 or 15 minutes by just going through this wizard. Now, one thing I just want to mention is the custom call to actions. So you can add different call to action buttons that show up over here on the right-hand side and have them do different things, link to different places or whatever you want. There's different use cases for that. But I want to show you just an example of how this particular demo works. And we're going to go into this preview mode here, and we'll just let a little bit of it play out so you can see how this works.
This is an automated micro demo from Consensus. In a moment, we'll ask you to indicate your interest level in the available topics. Your micro demo will dynamically stitch together a video timeline that focuses on what matters most to you. Change your selections to focus on different topics. Customize the rest of this demo in 3, 2, 1.
So you can see we put an explanation intro video that just explains what's going on. Then these are in our company, these are our topics, right? So these are our different features or benefits that we're listing. And somebody might come in and just say, this is somewhat important. Maybe I don't do multiple languages and so on. And so as they select that and move forward, you can see that the very important things will come up first, then the somewhat important, and it skips over the not important items. And you can see some of our custom call to actions over here. A lot of people have questions about CRM. So we have a link to another demo on CRM integrations or how to calculate your ROI. There's an interactive ROI calculator. So you can imagine custom call to action buttons you might include. So when I click continue, you'll see that it starts again with the things that are very important and then moves to the things that are somewhat important. And so it's custom tailored. And you can see different PDFs related to the specific things that they had questions about, or I mean that they marked as important to them. So that's the basics of how that works. I want to show you the fundamentals of how the data is tracked, and kind of wrap up with some of the data tracking. Once you send out, once you have your demo created, then you send it out by call a demo board, which is just a custom link. And this link can be created inside Consensus, or it can be created inside your CRM or inside your email with plugins. We have a lot of integrations. But I might just say, I'm going to send one to Acme Co, to Bob Smith, bob@acme.com. Okay, I might add other people here as well. Now I'm going to choose the demo to send it to send them. So maybe I'll just send them this one as an example. And then I can choose who gets notified. So maybe I'm the account executive and I also want the sales engineer to be notified, or maybe I'm the BDR and I want the account executive, but I can add what we call team-based notifications. And I'm just going to turn this on so it doesn't mess up my statistics. And I click create demo board. This immediately shows me 3 different types of links: an image link, a button link, and a text link. So this allows me to copy and paste these types of links into my email. They all go to the same place. So if I go look at what this looks like, it's a personalized landing page for the person I'm sending the demo to. So again, Bob Smith, if I sent it to him, he'd see this and personalized demo for his company. Who are you, Bob? He clicks his name and he goes into that same demo that I just showed you. If he shares this link with others on his team, other buyers, other stakeholders, then they might see his name, oh, Bob Smith, and say, I'm going to add myself. So they might put their name here. And then they can enter the demo. And this is one of the ways that we discover and engage those stakeholders. So how do we track how they're engaging? That's really in this track demo boards area. And so if I look at engagement, then I can see if I sort by engagement, different people. So at Consensus, for example, I sent a demo to Taylor, and he watched it, 5 total views for 20 minutes, right? So this is just an example of how to do the tracking. You can drill down and look at specifics, which I won't go into at this time, but I also want to show you at the high level how you can look at aggregate analytics. So not only are you tracking tactically which stakeholders are engaging, but you're also looking at across a month. In this last month, our team sent out almost 1,500 invitations to watch demos. 408 of them were viewed. We have a 28% view rate, and we've discovered organically 173 stakeholders. So that's just on our team alone. And there are lots of other ways to look at the statistics as well, including by your different team members. You can drill down on the specific customers and so on. So hopefully that gives you a sense for how that works, and also the benefits of Consensus demo automation. And I hope, whether you use demo automation or not, I hope that this has been helpful to think about how to improve pre-sales productivity and how to think about different types of demos and where they belong in the buying process and how you can better serve your customers. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take some questions for a few minutes. So I'm just going to look in the Q&A area. Looks like maybe a lot of the questions have come in the chat. So I'll look in the chat in just a second. But there's one question from Anand that came in, and he said, when we go with help them buy then sell, how do we narrow down to the right audience or customer org? So I'm not sure I fully understand the question here, but narrowing down to the right audience or customer org, if the goal is to help your buyer sell internally more effectively, this is, again, one of the reasons I think demo automation is helpful, because it's very difficult to train a buyer on how to sell your product effectively, because they're not trained salespeople. So if you can put something in their hands that will allow it to automatically personalize to their unique interests, then they don't have to worry about how to do that. They don't have to narrow it down to a specific audience. The actual demo can do that. If you don't want to use an automated demo, I would say you provide them with a little educational material that says, hey, if you're going to talk to a CEO, then you need to do it this way. If you're going to talk to your head of marketing, you're going to do it that way, and help educate them. And maybe both of those can be helpful. If you give them an automated demo, if they go have live conversations, again, you're trying to educate them on what to expect when they go into that conversation. So hopefully that's helpful. One other question that just came up from Amit is, how does the pricing of your product work? So pricing is based on user licensing, basically. So there's different add-ons and different types of licenses and so on. But it's basically how many people are building demos for the reusable library and how many are sending them out and tracking them and using the analytics. So if you're interested, there's a place you can fill out a form on our website to get more information about the pricing. So another question just came in. Do intro videos genuinely help? He says, we have taken a lot of pain in creating and automating these videos. Do we have any example where these videos have done wonders? Well, yes. And if you mean by intro videos, the whole interactive video demo, I mean, I could share I shared some examples from the SAP, for example, but we have hundreds, if not thousands, of other examples, but I'll give you a couple of others. So one of our customers, a large software company, not SAP, but they haven't given us permission to share their name. They were selling into enterprise and also mid-market and smaller businesses. Now there's smaller deals because they're such a large organization. There's smaller deals where anything under $200,000. So Some organizations, we might consider that a big deal if it's $100,000. To them, it was a small deal, and they needed to automate as much as possible. So with demo automation, they were actually able to start closing some of these deals as high as $80,000 annual purchases without engaging in sales engineers. And that allowed them to use those same sales engineers to spend more time on the enterprise deals, which also increased their close rate on the enterprise side. So think about every time that you don't automate something that could be automated, you're spending the opportunity. There's an opportunity cost there. And so that's one example. Many other examples have to do with just discovering and engaging those stakeholders and accelerating the sales cycle. As I mentioned, ADP shortened their sales cycle by almost 70% in that particular medical software division. And so those are some examples, but there are many others. If you want to reach out to me offline, I'm happy to share some others, or reach out to anyone on our team here. So let me pull up the chat here and see if there are any other questions as well. Let's see.
At the end, there are two questions, Aaron.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see. So there's one question. We don't have a separate sales engineer in my company. What will be the drawback on this? I only have a sales team and they give most of their demos. Well, that's perfectly fine. If your salespeople are essentially acting as the people demoing, you can just have them build the demos and use them to send and track. You don't have to have sales engineers for this to be effective. So we have many organizations on the smaller side that use this technology in that very same way. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. One other question that has come in from Joseph. Does this work only for products COTS? I'm not sure what that means. Or do you have any examples of customized products? Oh, maybe off the shelf. Is that what you're thinking? So if you're meaning customized, highly complex, yes, most of our customers have highly complex products. But the thing is that sales engineers, usually the buyers, when they first get started in that buying process, they don't need to know all of the different complexities. They need to know the basics. And sales engineers are too often asked to come in and deliver a demo just on the basics. So even though you have a highly complex customized product, it's highly configurable. And the sales engineer will eventually, later in the buying cycle, help the customer figure out what is the right combination of features and configurations and even custom work that might need to be done to get the right solution. They don't need to go to that level up in that vision demo, micro demo, qualifying demo stages, right? Those can be automated. So, but if you think about many of our customers, including SAP and Oracle and IBM and others, they have highly customized product solutions. But the question is really, what part of this early stage repetitive demos and even after those closing demos can you automate? We're not trying to automate everything, right? That highly customized experience you're still going to have, but there's still a huge opportunity to automate some portion of that. So hopefully that helps. One other question, please comment from Sethu, please comment on customizing demos per customer use cases. So there are, of course, demos to customize for different verticals and say different industries. And then there are also use cases within a given industry, right? So some of our customers will build hundreds of demos across their product lines specifically for this purpose. They maybe have one product across different industries, and in every industry there's different use cases. So the beautiful thing about once you have the reusable library built, and of course these are larger customers that are building hundreds of demos, when you have this library built, then those can be reused over and over, and you can guide them to find the right demo. Or the salesperson who already knows, if a lot of times the SDRs or BDRs are reaching out in a specific, they're specialized in a certain industry or a specific use case, and so they can send out that specific demo. So it really depends on your content strategy, and that's just one of the things that you think about. You don't want to just jump out and build demos for everything right at the beginning. We highly recommend you start with a micro demo and a single use case and look at the results and how that works, and then start expanding from there. So I think that's it for all the questions, Ankita.
Right, Karen. We have covered most of the questions, rather all of them. We have 5 more minutes. Any last questions, audience? All right, getting any closing thoughts from your side?
I would just say that, if you're interested in learning about demo automation more, you can go to our website, which I'll just pop up here, and it's at goconsensus.com. So you can see that here, goconsensus.com. There are a lot of, I think, resources out there. If you look in the resources area, that might be interesting, whether you choose to use Consensus or not. I hope that you can learn through some of the resources we provide to consider different ways to service the buying experience better, or service the buyer better. And that's really our goal, is to help make the buying experience easier, and in turn, increase the number of deals you're able to close, on your team. So I thank you for the opportunity to share, Ankita, and everybody who's been involved. Thank you for participating, and hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Garen. What a wonderful session. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The webinar was all empirical in terms of how digital pre-sales automation helps the enterprises in their businesses. And to all the audience, I'll meet all of you next month with the episodes focusing on Product Management 101. Calendar will be out soon. Do check the nasscom.in/events for more information and registration. Have a great day, Harren, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, everyone. Take care, be safe.